But yeah, we can go ahead and jump into it, and we'll probably keep it pretty short today. I know that you guys have been certainly keeping up with our updates on Twitter, and I know that there's been a lot of exciting announcements just in the last week, especially. So I'll pass the mic off to Aiden to kind of talk to us a little bit more about something we've been super stoked on behind the scenes, which is Hyperlane. As you guys may have heard, we're going to be adding Hyperlane as the main bridging hub for STTIA. And yeah, I'll let Aiden chat a little bit more about this. And if you've got questions, of course, just raise your hand. We'll bring you right up on the stage. You can send messages in the chat. We'll take a pause between each topic to talk about each issue. Issue, not issue, topic. These aren't issues. These are positive things. But yeah, all right. Yeah, Aiden, what's the tea with Hyperlane today?
Yeah. So currently Stride just does one thing, which is liquid staking, and that hasn't really changed. And I think this has been like a big competitive advantage for Stride in the past. Because Stride only does liquid staking, we can export liquid staking tokens to other DeFi apps like Osmosis and Neutron and DMAX and Umi and Mars and all these places. And Stride doesn't compete with any of them. So the liquid staking token can become like the base token in the DeFi app. It's a really nice way to collaborate with these other projects. Stride is sort of like the Switzerland in Cosmos, very neutral. But in the Celestia ecosystem, there's no IBC. So we can't bridge SCTA easily to rollups, unfortunately, through IBC. Instead, the rollups in Celestia use a bridge called Hyperlane. The main difference is Hyperlane has permissionless deployment. So one way to think about this is it's a bit like Uniswap. Like on centralized exchanges, you need a centralized exchange to list your token, and there's only a few hundred tokens listed on most centralized exchanges. On Uniswap, I think there's like tens of thousands. And back in 2020, and like now today, we take it for granted, but this was like a really novel idea that you could just have permissionless market creation, and it led to a ton of innovation and like a huge explosion of activity. And one way to think about Hyperlane is it's sort of like that. So anyone can deploy it. There's implementations for the EVM, the SVM, and Cosmos. So, we can connect to Solana, we can connect to Ethereum, we can connect to Ethereum rollups, connect to Cosmos chains, all these. And anyone can just take the Hyperlane bridge and deploy it on their chain. So the thinking here is like in a world with thousands of rollups, you really need a bridge protocol that can be deployed permissionlessly. And that's how we see the ecosystem around Celestia evolving is, not just like 10 or 100 rollups, but actually thousands. And in that world where you have thousands of rollups, you need Hyperlane because it's the only permissionless bridging protocol. Now, there is sort of a challenge, which is like, if you have 1,000 rollups and they all have Hyperlane, they all need to be connected. And you don't want like connections between all of these different rollups. It just gets super messy. So a much like cleaner, simpler way to structure this is you have TIA, which is bridged from Celestia mainnet to Stride. That's through IBC. And then Stride connects to all the rollups. So if you want to go from rollup A to rollup B, it's just one simple hop through Stride. Like you bridge your TIA, for example, from Eclipse down to Stride and then over to Manta. That's super easy. Yeah, you can imagine like a different world where all the rollups are connected and you have like a connection between Eclipse and Manta and Arbitrum and Manta. But then if you want to get from Eclipse to Arbitrum, it's like, do you go through Manta or do you go between the two? And it just becomes a big mess. So that's sort of the vision. Tangibly, we are working on adding Cosmos to Stride right now, only for the Hyperlane deployment. No other apps will be allowed. And we'll have to like set, clear social guidelines around this so people don't try and like deploy just random things to Stride, like NFT marketplaces or something like that. And we're also talking to a few different Cosmosm teams, and they are, going to help us through the deployment of Hyperlane itself. So don't have a super concrete timeline yet, but it could come very soon. We announced the first connection to a rollup yesterday, I believe, to Eclipse. Eclipse is an SVM rollup, so it's the fastest Ethereum L2. and they'll be launching soon. Manta is another exciting one where I think SCTO will be bridged. So after Stride adds Hyperline, you'll be able to bridge TIA and SCTO to Manta and Eclipse.
That's super exciting. Thanks for talking us through that a little bit. Yeah, it's cool that Stride will kind of, again, be this sort of integral but neutral hub for this bridging process. I think of all the things that we could kind of bring on flexibly. I know we're not a smart contracts chain and we don't normally deploy them, but I think, yeah, having the restrictions that we'll have in order to make this Hyperline bridging hub become possible for us will be really cool. I do see some comments in the chat. Taranjeet's asking, which roll-ups are you most excited about, Aiden? Tia's already on Manta via Hyperlane, so it's on ETH L2's. Milky Way announced ETH expansion is a priority today as well, so ST Tia on ETH L2 will be amazing. But yeah, I guess the main question would be which ones are you most excited about?
Yeah, I think the Eclipse one is going to be very cool. Eclipse is sort of an interesting rollup because it's at the intersection of Solana and Ethereum and Celestia. They have the SVM, the Solana virtual machine, but it's an Ethereum L2 and it uses Celestia data availability. So you have these like three really exciting ecosystems and it's at the center of them all. It'll be interesting to see how people use it. If they mostly use it, like if it's like mostly Solana users or Ethereum or Celestia, we'll have to see.
Totally. Moons is asking, is Hyperlane its own chain?
Hyperlane is not its own chain. Hyperlane is similar to IBC. It's a bridging protocol. So the bridging protocol is defined, and then there are implementations in different like smart contracting languages. So there's one for the EVM for the Ethereum virtual machine. There's one for the SVM for the Solana virtual machine, and then there's one for Cosmosm. And the Cosmosm contracts will be added to the Stride chain, but there's no Hyperlane chain.
I see another good question, two good questions. One, would Hyperlane have a token? And secondly, how will Hyperlane be secure from hackers?
Yeah, on the token question, I don't know. Up to the Hyperlane team, really. I haven't heard anything. And in terms of security, Hyperlane security is very flexible. So initially, I think the Hyperlane deployment on Stride will likely use some of Stride's own validators to secure the bridge. So the security assumptions will kind of be similar to IBC. And it was also audited by Oak Security.
Awesome. Cool. I'm just taking some notes so we have all of this information on lock. Yeah, I think Eclipse especially sounds really cool. I think like you said, it is really unique positioning to kind of be at this intersection of Celestia, ETH, and Solana. Maybe, do you think just, for the noobs in the building, can you talk a little bit about like what exactly is the SVM rollup? It's the Solana virtual machine, but what is that?
So different blockchains have different what are called virtual machines, and they're like operating systems. So on like a laptop, you have Mac OS and Windows and things like that. And on blockchains, you have like the Ethereum virtual machine, the Solana virtual machine, Cosmosm, and they're just different operating systems. Or that's one way to think about them. So the SVM is it's the one from Solana, and it's been optimized in all these different ways to be very efficient. So there are things like parallel execution, like you can have two threads running at the same time, and all kinds of other benefits. So the idea with Eclipse is you get the speed and performance of Solana with the settlement and security of Ethereum.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I appreciate the layman's terms. And I see one of our ambassadors is asking, using Hyperlane, will this give us eligibility for future airdrops?
Yeah, it's impossible to say because if Hyperlane ever did, if they ever launched a token and did an airdrop, which I don't know if they will, but if they did, it would be up to them. Although I assume if Stride becomes like the bridging hub for Hyperlane and Cosmos, that would probably be meaningful to the Hyperlane team.
Yeah, lots of airdrop questions and talk. I can understand why people are asking that right now. Airdrop mania everywhere. Yes. Well, cool. Thanks for kind of talking us through that. I know that the kind of the door to Celestia being opened the way that it has really has opened up a lot of new ways that we're thinking about things behind the scenes. So I think this, yeah, getting Hyperlane set up and all the new rollups to come through that and with that will be really exciting and hopefully provide a lot of cool activity to our community. I think maybe we can just chat a little bit also about some other more more Cosmos focused integrations that have been announced in the last week and some proposals that are up right now. I know that ST Osmo and STT vaults on Interprotocol are now live. So if you guys haven't checked those out, you know, we've been working with Interprotocol for a while now. When we originally launched ST Atom with them. So yeah, go check out the ST Osmo and STT vaults. I know that the prop for STT only had gone up on Sunday, so this is all pretty recent in the last couple days. I was playing around on Interprotocol yesterday, so it's everything's live. You can go ahead and open a vault. And then I also saw, and maybe you can chat a little bit about this, Aiden, two gov props up on Umi for listing SDTIA and then creating asset pairings for them. I think I can drop the links to those props in the chat. So yeah, if you guys are interested in voting on these, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there's a whole lot to say here, but we have ST Osmo and STT vaults on Interprotocol on Agoric. And then, like you said, there's the two gov props on Umi. Yeah.
Yep. Maybe I think people are still thinking about Hyperlane right now, so we can take a couple more questions about that. We don't have the longest agenda today. That's most of the main topics. So after questions, guys, we'll probably close the call. So now is the time. If you've been thinking about anything, start dropping them in the chat or raise your hand to come speak. But I see a really good question. How can we compare Hyperlane and Axelar?
Yeah. So the way that I'm take this with a grain of salt. I'm not a deep expert on Axelar or Hyperlane yet. The way that Axelar works is they have their own blockchain, which like custodies tokens and is mainly used to bridge between Ethereum and Cosmos. So if you want to bridge like a Cosmos token to Ethereum, for example, you need like some governance proposal on Hyperlane on Axelar, and then that token can be bridged to Ethereum. But it's not permissionless. That's the main difference. So it has good security assumptions, but it takes some time to onboard tokens. And the security assumptions, while they're good, are not super flexible. With Hyperlane, the deployment is permissionless. So you don't need like permission from the Hyperlane team or community or governance token or anything to open up a new bridging route. And the security is flexible. So you can have like, very good security or very bad security. Obviously, always want better security, but you can start with like a single key securing a bridge or a multi-sig or a set of validators. So it lets you pick any points along that spectrum.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I know I actually saw some chat about that. I don't remember if it was in Discord or Twitter, but some people were having this same conversation. And yeah, it's cool that Hyperlane kind of I feel like this is like pretty novel in my opinion, at least from what I can see. I feel like if you actually had to set up a gov prop every single time that you needed to, if you every time you needed to bridge something, that would probably be a really time consuming process and be pretty limiting to a lot of the activity that could take place. So cool that there's this, yeah, I guess flexibility with Hyperlane. I see two other questions. Maybe we'll take Moons's first because I think it's kind of more in the same vein. Moons asked, will rollups have staking? Hyperlane states that they have interchain accounts and interchain queries. And then the other question is about DMEX snapshots and when those will start for STTF. But yeah, I guess the summary question from Moons would be, does this mean that Stride might potentially liquid stake some rollups?
Yeah, so first on DMAX snapshots, I think we are currently talking to our data provider, Numia, and we're checking with them. I'm not sure exactly when they'll start, but I think they should start soon. And then on rollups, most rollups don't have their own staking token. So because rollups don't have staking, you also don't need liquid staking on the rollups. So I think Stride probably won't do liquid staking for rollups. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but we will export STT to the rollups.
And you mean like doing that STT will that's kind of like in the vein of the modular money sort of discussion, how STT and TIA will kind of be the main currency that functions in the rollup ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. Like the rollups will presumably use STT and they won't have their own staking token.
Um, that's pretty cool. Still green on rollups and stuff. Totally. I think a lot of people are, so it's good to kind of get the breakdown of it in these small spaces so we can kind of talk about it with wisdom as we go forward. I see Taranjeet says rollups using dimension will need to bind the dime. I know it's somebody clarified this to me the other day that it's dime. In my head, I say dim though. Dime. I know dime. Rollups using dimension will need to bind the dime token. What do you mean bind? And then another good question. Any thoughts of getting Stride listed on any centralized exchanges, given the amount of Stride incentives coming out over the next few months that could help with liquidity?
Yeah, this sentiment and thought definitely makes sense. I can't speak too much to what's going on with centralized exchanges. We need to ask Stride Foundation, but logically it makes sense.
Yeah, good question. Okay, guys, I'm gonna do last call on questions, I think. Just anything on the brain, feel free to drop it here. Doesn't even have to be a question, could just be any commentary. But while you guys are typing, in the meantime, I'll let you know that the Stride Support Lab is going to be coming out, I think, with 4 or 5 new guides in the next day or two. There'll be guides just for how to basically utilize STT and STDYDX on some of the integrations that are considered eligible for the airdrop. So if I'm under the assumption that most of the people in this audience have already navigated these platforms and have already interacted with the airdrop, but if you haven't, those resources will become available in our support.stride.zone/library. Um, so yeah, feel free to check that out in the next day or two. I'll make an announcement in Discord with a direct link to them once they're live. But just know that any resource that we share in the Stride Support Lab, whenever you're out in the Twitterverse doing, having conversations about whatever's happening in the ecosystem, if people are ever seeking resources, you're always welcome to share the ones that we publish here. We really encourage it because it makes it easier for everybody to navigate how to use their ST tokens or how to acquire ST tokens even. Um, but yeah, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat other than when SD Aiden, when SD Moons, and SDTS, right? Great questions. We may never know, but hopefully soon. Um, but yeah, I'll let you guys go, and we'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place. And thank you, Aiden, for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for hosting. Sorry. See
All
you
right.
guys.
Peace out. Bye.